Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
We have to thank Salman Khurshid of the Congress Party for giving us the cue for this week's national interest. You know what? For quite some time now, my well-rehearsed line to politely, if lazily, duck publishers who nudge me to write a book is, editors write books between jobs and I am not between jobs yet. Now, I understand this can't be said for all editors, right? I speak for myself, but one set of professionals there is to whom it fully applies, and these are politicians. Politicians write between jobs or between spells in power. As Salman Khurshid of the Congress Party has done now, giving fuel for several hours of primetime maramari or what passes for debate on our TV channels. Now, this phenomenon of politicians writing books between spells in power cuts across parties. L.K. Advani spent his years in opposition writing his voluminous memoir. Kapil Sibal, P. Chidambaram, Manish Tiwari of the Congress, Pranab Mukherjee, although he wrote a couple of volumes from Rashtrapati Bhavan, not in politics, but as Rashtrapati, had a job. And many others have written theirs. Shashi Tharoor and Jairam Ramesh, in fact, have written so many in the past 7 years that I can't even keep count. In fact, you have to be a pakka, indoctrinated Tharoorian to be able to do so in case of Shashi Tharoor. Trust Salman Khurshid, however, to get the headlines. You don't even have to read the book. You don't even need to remember its name. It's called Sunrise over Ayodhya, by the way. It will now be debated, noted, remembered in history, and probably even be bought because of that one line, I suspect of indiscretion. I'm not sure if Salman Khurshid is regretting it or is happy having said it, but his line comparing Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh or RSS with ISIS or Islamic State, for clarity, Daesh, not any other Islamic state. Now, Rahul Gandhi has poured further gas into the blaze, speaking on a video that looks like it was recorded in a cardboard container. I'm sorry to say, but the visual signal it gives your mind is that of an interrogation chamber in Guantanamo Bay, right? Maybe he doesn't want anybody to know where he is. Now, he's taken Khurshid's argument a step forward by underlining the distinction between Hinduism and Hindutva. Does Hinduism teach you to kill someone like Akhlaq? He asked. Good point. Does Hinduism teach you to hate the minorities? Good point. Good questions. And the answer would be what he wants it to be. No. But it doesn't. The corollary for his argument is that Hindutva, on the other hand, does so. What is Hindu and Hindutva? Are they the same or different? Is one just the practice of and belief in the faith and the other its politicized ideological version? In which case, Hinduism is also a political faith as much as Pan-Islamism or Christianity of the past. Is that your argument? Or even Sikhism, given that Akal Takht at Amritsar is the supreme seat of Sikh spiritual and temporal power. It started with the 6th Guru Hargobind, who donned two swords, one of Miri, one of Piri, one of temporal power, one of spiritual power. Do Hindus now have a party like that? Is that party the BJP or the ideological, philosophical parent from which it rises, the RSS? That's an interesting and important debate. Although Mr. Modi and BJP RSS say that Hinduism and Hindutva are the same, there is no difference. But are they same as the ISIS? That makes the debate much harder. Now, there is a lot that is common between all social forces that mix religion with politics. It can range from Indian Union Muslim League in Kerala to Abbas Siddiqui, the Maulvi of Furfura Sharif near Kolkata, the elements of old Kerala Congress which appeal to the Christian vote, Akali Dal, and definitely the elephant in the room, the BJP. None shies about employing religion for political power. None is shy of saying rude things about those of the other faiths. Yet, would you compare them with ISIS? We need to understand ISIS first. Do these parties kill, enslave, torture people of other faiths and probably even more of their own at mass levels? For all the awful things ISIS might have done to the Yazidis, their massacres, torture, enslavement, rape, sexual slavery, instant justice by execution or beheading have harmed several times more their fellow Muslims. Why does the ISIS hate most of all the regimes? Why does what the ISIS hates most of all is regimes and Islamic theocracies? Because they want to create a pan-national new state. They don't believe in other nationalism except in nationalism stitched together by one solitary thread. That is Islam. That is the faith. And that is the difference. And there too, their chosen version of Islam, not just any version of Islam. Any surprise then that the nations fighting them most brutally, the nations fighting ISIS most brutally and most doggedly are from the world of Islam, whether they are republics like Pakistan, Islamic Republic, or sultanates or emirates, Bangladesh, Pakistan, UAE, Saudi Arabia. Now, do any of these parties in India want to create a state within a state? If not a new state stealing from a dozen legitimate, well-settled states like ISIS does, we might be getting ahead of ourselves with these comparisons. Now, obviously, Salman Khurshid would say, with a sense of righteous hurt, that this is not what he was implying. He will be right in a sense, most likely. But as a public figure whose word will be taken seriously by friend and more importantly foe, would he rethink the wisdom of making such a comparison? Particularly when he is still a senior member of the Congress and an active politician. Of course, it has divided his own party. Ghulam Nabi Azad was the quickest off the mark, questioning him, saying you can't conflate one with the other. And now with Rahul Gandhi having weighed in, the Congress party has something it hasn't had for some time, an internal public disagreement and debate over a key ideological issue. It is for them to decide whether it was wise at this point or if this is the ideological issue they need to settle first. But at this point, they've handed over quite a lot of the middle ground Hindu vote, which may be getting disillusioned with the Modi government, back to the BJP. And this doesn't work well for the Congress party. And by implication, they've also brought support back to the RSS. Now, adherents of which faith anywhere in the world would not find it revolting if their faith was conflated with ISIS. Most of all, the Muslims would be furious if their faith was conflated with ISIS. ISIS is the biggest enemy of the Muslims. Now, we understand where Khurshid, Rahul, and their many supporters, by the way, watch the social media outrage over this column, where all of them are coming from. They argue that BJP is just the political face of the RSS, that it appeals only to the Hindu vote. It works on a simple principle that if nearly or ideally more than 50% Hindus vote for the BJP, it can continue ruling all of India. Never mind the rest, and never mind that if to achieve this, they have to demonize the minorities, especially the Muslims. Their governments are selective in their treatment of crimes against Muslims or by them. Right? If a Muslim commits a crime, then it's one kind of treatment. If it's a crime against them, it's another kind. But they've also kept India's Muslims systematically out of all power structures, politics, top civil services, security agencies, judicial positions. Also, often enough, they say rude things about Muslims to offend them as a tactic. All this is maybe correct and is correct in many ways. But does that prove RSS equals ISIS? Now, irrespective of their voting preferences, most voters would find this comparison with ISIS revolting. They will not be happy. More specifically, would it persuade anybody who voted for Narendra Modi to change their minds now? अरे ये पार्टी तो ISIS है. How can I vote for it? मैंने कितना बड़ा crime किया, पाप किया, I voted for ISIS. It's not BJP but ISIS. So equally for them, in fact, many more numerous than the Modis, Hitler, RSS or Nazis kind of believers would think that he is no less than a divine reincarnate, and the history of Bharatvarsha resumed in 2014 after 1200 years of hiatus under invaders or the deracinated flotsam they left behind. Not my words. Those are the words they use. And you didn't like that description? No? Deracinated flotsam, it's an insult. Nor would I use it in any normal speech or writing. I am only making the point that it is tempting to throw a label as a gali, right? It might give you a moment's satisfaction, a release for your outrage, you so and so, right? That's what a gali does for us. or what would be called in Hindi heartland bhadas. आपने भड़ास निकाल ली अपनी. It makes zero difference to anybody's political fortunes. It makes zero difference to anybody's voting preferences. The worst and yet the most tempting thing about using labels is intellectual laziness. The killings of 1984 in Delhi and elsewhere, Gujarat in 2002, many before that, Bhimandi, Bhagalpur, Hashimpura, Muradabad, and you can keep counting. These were terrible massacres. The first two, that is Delhi 84 and 2002 Gujarat, we don't even call riots because these were politically supported organized killings, one by each of our main political rivals. But were any of these the Holocaust? How often do you find that word used? Holocaust was more than 60 lakh Jews gassed, slaughtered and plowed into the ground at labor camps. How much was that for a relatively small European population? 60 lakh, 6 million. Wasn't the thousands killed in 1984 or 2002 bad enough? Of course it was, but Holocaust, to call it Holocaust is rude to the Jews and their most painful heritage. The problem with labels is not that they spark debates, but they close the doors on any arguments or counter-arguments. Think about the BJP RSS side calling somebody anti-national, Pakistani or Chinese agent, taking orders from Rome, prostitute, Sonia Dalals, right? How hurtful that is for the recipient who are critics of the BJP, but does nothing for the BJP or its supporters. उनकी भी भड़ास निकलती है सिर्फ. Salman Khurshid isn't the first to succumb to such lazy, pre-siesta intellectual laziness, right? नींद आती है ना afternoon में. In fact, why just talk about politicians? An intellectual historian of the left, as eminent as Professor Irfan Habib, had made the same comparison. I had then responded with a column, and I'm sharing a link to the column with you with the description. Congress leaders taking it up at these high levels now, this argument, need to read up a bit more on the ISIS and learn electoral politics all over again.